In the last video, we took a look at the passing attack the Jaguars put up against the New Orleans Saints in week 2 of the preseason. Today, I wanted to take a look at the all-22 of the running game. And this first run, I think, is probably actually the least successful run of the night, aside from Trevor Lawrence's fumble on the play that he had his ankle stepped on. So there's just not much movement in the middle here, and I do want to call out, if you look over here at 65, keep an eye on him as this play rolls forward, because he seems to get a little bit lost as he comes across trying to find a blocker. There's really just no room here. 54 of the defense does a really nice job shedding this block and getting into a tackling position. So there's really no room for the running back here. But even so, there is enough forward movement. If you look where the ball's snapped from, there is enough forward movement here that the Jaguars actually gain a couple yards on the play. It was just kind of an ugly couple yards. It's 2 yards in a pile of dust. But otherwise, it wasn't terrible. It could have easily been a play for a loss based on the lack of blocks the Jaguars were able to establish here, as well as 54 shedding that blocker so quick. But all things considered, it actually turned out okay, but definitely not the prettiest of the runs the Jaguars put together. This next play is a little bit more successful than the first running play in the sense that there is good movement along the line, and Bigsby does a really nice job here of finding a seam to get himself about a 4-ish, 3.5 yard gain or so. Nothing huge, obviously, but if you're getting 3.5 closer to 4, depending on the spot of the ball, if you can be sort of on track there to give yourself a 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, and then later in a drive, maybe a 3rd and 2, yeah, you're going to convert a lot of short yardage scenarios. So this was a good example where everyone found a blocker, and there was a seam there for the running back to get a little bit vertical and get downfield. Now, this next play, I think, is going to be a staple of the offense in that you're going to see a lot of these jet sweep motions. You're going to see a lot of the actual jet sweep being run, but you're also going to see it faked a lot as a way of moving the defense and then handing off to the running back, which we're going to see here in a little while as well. And once again, it's not a huge gain, but it does seem to accomplish what the Jaguars are trying to do here, because keep in mind, with Cohen's offense, they're really trying to set up those big shot play action plays where they can get some vertical hits down the field that are relatively simple. So this one works well. It's also going to be used to set up a later run. And if you can get the defense to be biting on some of these things, you're going to see some really good success in the passing game. Keep in mind, you don't always have to hit big runs to be successful, but what you do have to do is threaten the defense in ways that force players to move. Now, from a yardage standpoint, again, 2-3 yards, that's not going to be really that great, but it is going to open up some options in the game from a play calling perspective. And then, of course, the play that ended the first drive, this was the fumble where the guard just kind of steps on Trevor Lawrence's ankle, and then Trevor Lawrence compounds what would have been just a loss of a few yards by trying to shove the ball into Bigsby's arms, which might have worked, but then Lawrence's helmet also hits Bigsby and hits the ball out of his hands. So this was just a bad play made much worse by a bad decision on the quarterback's part. Hopefully, though, since it popped up in preseason, that's something that he can learn from, and hopefully next time just kind of falls on it and lives to fight another down, because ultimately you're in really good field goal range here. Even if you're unable to convert for a first down, you still have 3 points right there on the board. You cannot be giving that up, especially if you're in one of those close games. That's part of the reason they lost so many close games last year, is they just couldn't seem to get out of their own way at the worst possible moments. So to start the second drive, if you want to see good misdirection, watch 98 here. He's going to see this as it's happening, but there's nothing that he can do about it. So that jet sweep earlier where Brian Thomas took the handoff and got a couple few yards, this is why you do that. You can now fake that jet sweep, which Cohen does with the play call. This time, though, Travis Etienne gets the ball and is right up the middle for a really nice gain. There's a nice gap there in the middle. Now, I guess I don't necessarily know that that was the Liam Cohen call, or maybe that was Trevor Lawrence's decision once he got up to the line. Really not sure on the mechanics exactly of that, but that's why you run those jet sweeps, where you have that ability to pull the defense sort of to their right there. And then you're going to leave some gaps in the middle of the field because the defense is worried about that jet sweep action again. So if you can get this running, this is its own sort of form of like running play action, where you're getting runs that complement each other. And then, of course, both of those can complement a downfield shot later on in the game. So that's a really nice combination to see on preseason film. Now, this run is one of those just blue-collar runs where you're just running down the throat of the defense and you're getting a few yards here. There's really not a lot notable that I saw when I'm watching it back here. Trevor Lawrence pulls in the receiver a little bit there, and it's just a straight run down the middle. And to be fair here, the offensive line gets some good movement there. There's clear movement to give the running back a little bit of space, but it's 2-3 yards and a pile of dust. And here the end zone shot kind of gives a similar view of that. You pull in the receivers and you run it straight down the middle, and you get some nice movement with a nice little gap there where you can get your running back in for a few yards. Like I said, nothing special, but that's the type of play that if you can get those yards, you're going to force the defense to respect that, especially on earlier downs, because the defense doesn't want to be constantly playing in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2 scenarios. So if you can do that, you're actually going to have some success in the play action game. And on this last run of the first 2 drives with the starters, the Jaguars give another look for their running game to put on tape to make defenses sort of think about what they're going to do, this time out of a shotgun formation. And once again, you get really nice movement. Brenton Strange actually has a really nice block as he comes across the formation there. So watch Strange up here as this happens. He's going to come across and do a really nice job here, picking off one of the defenders to open up that gap for Travis Etienne. So this worked well. Again, I know that the Saints aren't playing their starters there, but I'm optimistic based on what I'm seeing here. There was a couple of gains that were pretty small, but there was no big losses other than that fumble when obviously Trevor Lawrence should have just eaten the ball and taken the loss. But aside from that, the Jaguars look good. Now, it is worth noting here, it's really difficult to judge the offensive line against a backup defense. So sort of like the passing game, this should have been successful. The fact that it was successful is a good sign, but it's not necessarily an indicator that they're going to be able to do this against good defenses when the season actually starts. But it's certainly a reason for some optimism as the Jaguars get going. Once again, if you like this all-22 look, then I do plan to continue this throughout the regular season, so hit that subscribe button down below, like, share. And I'm Shane. I will see you all in the very next video.